There it is. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you all again, as always, for joining us. Today, we have a really fun show. Somebody who can teach us about intuitive eating and polyamory and all these different things combined. I don't know. We'll have some fun with it. It's going to be a fun show, so tune in.
Practicing Polyamory, real-life perspectives from the imperfect people of polyamory. The mission of the Practicing Polyamory podcast is to provide a platform for all of the real-life, flawed humans that practice polyamory so that we might all learn from one another and grow as a community. Enjoy the show.
All right, here we go. We're ready to rock and roll. Welcome to the show. Before we jump in, just one more time. I don't know how many more times I'm going to ask, probably till the end of the month or until I reach my goal of 100 YouTube subscribers. Please, if you could help me out, if you're listening, head on over to YouTube, do a search for Practicing Polyamory Podcast and hit that subscribe button so I can get to 100 subscribers before the end of the month. That would really make my day, would thrill me if y'all could head over there and give me that subscribe. Also, you can follow me on all social media at Practicing Polya. Would love if you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Twitch, whatever, all these other places, all these other things. And lastly, one more time, of course, or I don't know, a few more times going forward, I want to reach out to my BIPOC LGBTQ community. If you are, if you identify as those things and also as polyamorous, I especially want to share your story because yours are the ones that are most worth hearing. So without further ado, without any more of that, let me jump into an introduction for our guest. Our special guest today has been practicing polyamory for less than a year, but her background as an intuitive eating coach seems to have influenced the way she approaches relationships. As an intuitive eating coach, I imagine she helps people identify patterns in their eating habits and discover new ways to approach their health. Similarly, she's learned to apply looking for patterns in relationships to discover what is at the root of those relationship challenges. Being dedicated to personal growth, her work as a coach, and finding adventures in life are her major motivating factors, and I'm excited to hear how polyamory is changing her life. So if you have challenges around your eating habits and want a poly-friendly coach, tune in today to hear more, and let's welcome to the show, Coach Tiffany Thoen. Tiffany, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. That was definitely I felt very loved being welcomed on like that. So thank you very much.
Of course. It's my pleasure. It's my brother and I have been doing podcasting for a few years now. The Business Bros podcast, where we interview all kinds of business entrepreneurs, whatever. And that's my little thing. That's what I do for them is I do some research. I find out some information about them and I write them a fire intro. So, I wanted to bring that over to this show as well. But welcome. Tell me a little bit about what you do as an intuitive eating coach, and then we'll dive into like your journey through polyamory too.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so as an intuitive eating coach, what I do is I help people learn how to really build connection and trust with their own bodies and approach their food through that lens. And so really building a very nurturing relationship with food that's supportive every day, rather than kind of the traditional, more diet culture messages that we receive around like, eat this, not that, and try to control and manage, right? It becomes much more about being in tune with yourself and being connected with yourself, and then developing that, having that kind of peace and ease around food that is supportive of what you really need.
I love that. One of my partners was definitely into diet culture for a long time, took up and down on these different diets and all these different things. And she got to a point where she just said, F diets, man. Like, screw that noise. And she changed her approach to her eating. She changed her approach, her relationship to her body. And she's never had a coach per se, but I think that she practices a lot of the fundamentals or a lot of the pillars of intuitive eating. Can you tell me a little bit about what those pillars are and what people should expect, and like some of the basic things that they can change surrounding that diet culture and shifting that mentality?
Yeah. So I love that you were able to connect that to someone that you presumably love, someone that's important to you that you're connected
Yeah.
to. It affects so many people, and I think typically, more women, but it impacts men as well. And I'd say intuitive eating really is a completely different way of approaching it. And it is that kind of like, yeah, forget diets. Like this isn't, it actually is making things worse, right? And not better. And so intuitive eating was designed by a couple of dietitians about 25 years ago, and it's starting to really pick up steam now. And there are 10 principles of intuitive eating. There's an intuitive eating book. I recommend getting the most current one. If that's what if you're interested in checking it out. There's also a workbook, which they'll be updating as well. But the 10 principles are really around rejecting diet culture, rejecting shoulds around food, letting go of good, bad thinking around food, and really letting go of like beating ourselves up about it. And then getting in tune with like our hunger and fullness signals, getting in tune with what's happening in our body, learning how to manage our emotions, really learning how to care for ourselves on a really deep level. And then, we start to go into eating in a way that, yes, is like satisfying and fun and, allows for all of the experiences, but also in a way that feels good to us and, gives us energy and right. And is attuned with like, things that aren't going to give you heartburn, right? or whatever. Or if you're going to eat the thing that's going to give you heartburn, like eyes wide open, like, okay, I'm going to eat this, tonight I'm going to have pizza and, onion rings because we're at a party and I really want them or whatever. Right. So it's using discernment.
Get in my belly.
Yes.
You have those moments, right? You're
Yeah.
a person who's lactose intolerant, and somebody has this delicious, I don't know, mango sticky rice ice cream. I don't know if you know what mango sticky rice is or if you've ever had
I
mango
do.
sticky rice. Oh, there's this place down here in San Diego called Stella Jeans, and they do a mango sticky rice ice cream, and it is just unbelievable. But anyway, sometimes you're lactose intolerant. You just got to have ice cream, right?
Yep, sometimes. Yeah. So eyes wide open, using discernment and really doing it in a way that feels, satisfying and fun and good, right? Rather than like, I'm just going to sit over here and eat these 3 gallons of ice cream and cry about, like that doesn't feel good, right?
I'm sorry. I took it too far.
Took it too far. Too far. 1 gallon of ice cream, but 3, that's too far. I love it. I love it. So I made a presumption here. I presumably, said that you identify patterns in your eating habits. Is that kind of, am I on the right track there, or was I like way off base?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's often why someone will come to a coach, right? So I am certified in intuitive eating, and then I actually have my own model called the food attachment model. And what I really help people
Say
do
that one more time. The food what?
Food attachment model.
Food attachment. Okay.
And actually, this is one of these crazy places that, well, I'm trying not to use that language, but this is one of those places that polyamory and my work has really intersected for me.
Ooh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. So Jessica Fern wrote Polysecure. And so I was like walking down the street, listening to Polysecure and listening to her talk about relationship attachment styles. And I was like, not only do we have a relationship attachment style with others and with ourselves, but we have an attachment style with food directly. And so that's how the food attachment model was born. It's
cool.
So much fun for me. I would have probably not stumbled upon it if I hadn't been looking for, looking at those kind of relationship patterns in my own life and really wanting to grow in that area. So I have Jessica Fern to thank for that.
Thank you, Jessica Fern.
Yeah, totally.
We're talking attachment styles. I'm sorry to cut you off there, but we're talking attachment styles. This is definitely, kind of like intuitive eating is probably only 25 years old. I feel like attachment styles is relatively recent in psychology, and the studies are not particularly old. They're pretty recent. The Polysecure book is digging into our relationship styles and relationship attachment styles. Is that right?
Yeah. And she really, she shows how when you're in a polyamorous relationship, you don't have the relationship structure of monogamy to lean on to try to get more security, right? And so we have to find other ways of building secure attachments in our relationships when we're polyamorous. Yeah. So in some ways we can actually create a much stronger foundation because we're not kind of by default just relying on monogamy relationship structure. Instead, we're having to like do that work and be really intentional with our partners.
Yeah, it's definitely different. It is a newer thing. I was talking with one of our previous guests, and I brought up the book More Than Two, which was only published, maybe 20 years ago, something along those lines. And she had been actually practicing polyamory for longer than that. So when she first started her journey, there wasn't any of that reading material. There wasn't the internet to find a community. You are coming into this now less than a year ago, and you have these resources, you have all this stuff. What are some of the things that you've been learning, in the past several months that has been like life altering, relationship changing? What are that leaves you like that?
Oh, so much. And so I was in a monogamous relationship for 16 years prior to this, and left that relationship really because I wanted different things out of life. I really wanted to maintain my own autonomy and be able to like travel, and he wanted like a house in the suburbs and an extra garage in the fridge for the soda, and I wanted to like live a semi-nomadic lifestyle where I kind of live wherever and work online and, do this work I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I want
all the experiences. Yeah, I wanted all the experiences. And so it made sense for me to be non-monogamous because I didn't know if I was going to be in the same place from year to year. B, I wanted to have all the experiences and really, and then maintain my own autonomy. So I practice solo polyamory, and so I live alone, and I have my relationships all have their own kind of significance in my life, and they're separate, but still very meaningful to me.
Now I'm gonna jump in here really quick. Yeah. Solo polyamory is something that can mean different things to different people. What exactly does it mean to you? How would you define solo polyamory?
So for me, it's not making decisions that automatically prioritize a relationship over another. It is making sure that I'm making the decisions that are kind of right for me in my life primarily, and then and having that be informed by my partnerships, but all of my partnerships. So non-hierarchical. So like I, right. won't be getting married. I don't live with someone else. I don't, one relationship doesn't get like protected, status, So it's really having that, my priorities be about what's the best thing for me, and then informed by my partnerships as well.
How would you say that differs from relationship anarchy?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that's a perfectly fine answer, because I'm not sure either, but I was asking you.
Well, I love the idea of relationship anarchy because like I've always had super deep friendships, and I've always had, like business partnerships that were also friendships. And, there's always been kind of this interesting overlap. I prefer not to have like superficial relationships in my life. And so I love the idea that like you can have a super deep relationship with someone, and it doesn't have to be romantic, or it doesn't have to fit into any particular box, and that relationships can kind of like shift and be fluid over the lifetime of a relationship, right? So, but for me, I think the solo piece, right now it kind of is descriptive of my lifestyle, like living alone and, really being focused on my autonomy. But I wouldn't say that that's different than relationship anarchy either.
Fair.
A lot of potential for aggressive expansion.
Yes, absolutely. That expansion, though, it's all that personal expansion. I love this idea of, SOPO, driving across America, or, traveling the world, doing all these different things on your own. Like that's honestly my dream too. I want to own a van again. In 2017, I lived in an RV with my partner and her sister, plus our dog and 2 cats.
Oh my goodness.
It was fantastic. Oh my God. Best experience of my life. But it was a big RV. I think it was like a 36-footer. This thing was huge, right? It was a condo on wheels. And as fun as that was, and as amazing as that was, it was kind of short-lived. We ended up, not making a full year out of it. And 3 people made for a very interesting dynamic. But for me to be able to do it just on my own, just give me, just me and my dog, that's it. And we're gonna head out and just hit the country, and I don't know, find all kinds of cool national parks and all these different things. And
roads, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Doc Brown, that is right. I don't know. And so I guess, for me, that I totally resonate with that. And but I haven't quite identified fully as solo poly, because I really do enjoy partnerships. I do you struggle with that at all? Like, do you feel like there's a part of you that really wants to maintain the partnerships? And is there any struggle for you between being solo polyamory and balancing cherishing partnerships?
Yeah, so I have one partnership in particular that is, much more bonded and attached partnership. And so that was another thing I appreciated about the solo or the Poly Secure book, is that it kind of describes attachment and bonding. And so that relationship does tend to kind of like, pull on me in terms of my desire, my kind of like old monogamy tendencies, right? And like my and that, in terms of like prioritizing time and with the pandemic, it's really complicated, because if I see one person, it might mean I can't see another person, right? And so,
right.
But it's not to say just because I'm solo polyamorous that I can't have, very committed relationships. And so and not to say that I can't have like a preference for how I spend my time. It doesn't have to all be like equal, right? But yeah, I do find that there's a little bit of a tension there, but it's kind of a beautiful tension. Like, I want this for myself, and I also, love this person and want to spend time with them. And that's also something that's like, feels good to my soul, right? And so finding that balance between maintaining my autonomy and my agency and really exploring the possibility in that relationship has been kind of challenging at times, but also really beautiful. And of course, my partners are very supportive of wanting me to live my best life. And that makes all the difference in the world.
Heck yes, it does. I feel like that's something that is special, unique. I don't know. It's a polyamory like thing where I know that in previous relationships for myself, I tried to hang on, right? Like I hung on really tight. I remember reading a story about somebody who has sand. Whoop, I'm not holding it high enough. Sand in their hand, right? And if they hold it like this, if they hold it very loosely, the sand will stay in their hand. It won't go anywhere. But the moment that they tighten their fist and they try to hang on, the sand obviously falls through, right? This was a story that I read years and years and years ago, decades even probably. But I still held on to relationships that way for a long time. It was like, I can't let this person go. If I let them go, I'm going to lose them. Whereas now as a polyamorous person, it's like, oh no, you are your own autonomous person. The Valentine that I sent to my partner was, be mine, in parentheses, just kidding, be your own autonomous person. but it's just a completely different way of approaching relationships, where we really do give our partners so much freedom to go and do and be anything that they want, and still have confidence in their love, affections, and in our relationships. Is that something that you kind of had established beforehand, or do you think that you learned a lot of this in reading Polysecure and a lot of the education that you've received since starting your polyamory journey?
Yeah, so I'm pretty blessed in that my partners are more practiced in polyamory, and so they have provided me a lot of resources, and we've had a lot of conversation. And I am just kind of like I just can't get enough, right? Like I just eat this stuff up, and so yeah, I like give me all the information. And so, it was really initially when I started dating, it was like, okay, well, I'm interested in non-monogamy because I feel like it would fit really well with the lifestyle that I desired, but I didn't really know what that was going to look like. And so I wanted to learn as much as possible. The thing that I think is different in my relationships now and what I am seeking in relationship versus like the monogamous relationship that I came out of is that building that secure base and that secure foundation of like, kind of like what you were describing, like being confident in our love and affection for each other, our caring for each other, and making that be the focus rather than the external, all the relationship escalator stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think I felt really secure in my monogamous relationship, which is interesting because I was monogamous. I didn't never,
stuck around for 16 years.
Yeah. And my partner, as far as I know, he was as well. And, so we did the thing, like we did it. We did the house and the marriage and and no cheating or whatever. And, and still I didn't feel really, I didn't feel like we had this really like secure foundation of trust. And so that's something that's new to me and I'm learning. It's still tough sometimes, but reading about it and kind of understanding that it's much more about what you're putting into the relationship and how you support each other and show up for each other and let each other know that, I'm here for you, right? Like commitment looks completely different in polyamory, at least in my polyamorous relationships. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I'm listening to you and, you're saying that, 16 years that you spent with this person, you didn't quite have that security that you were seeking. There was just still something missing, but not necessarily that you're finding it, already in your other relationships, but it is a different way of going about it. The relationship escalator that you're talking about, when I was in monogamous relationships, it's all about that escalator, and it's kind of like this measure, right? You're gauging the status of your relationship, the validity of your relationship based on how far along the escalator you are. Whereas now in polyamory, it's like you were saying, it's about the relationship that you build. The relationship escalator is gone. It's about the things that you choose to bond with your partner over.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so beautiful because of that, right? It's like, it gets to be what you want, what both people really want it to be. And it can be, and the little things can be really significant. Like, you're not using this external measure. And in that way, it reminds me of the food stuff that we were talking about in the past, right? Like, it's not about like these external measures. It's much more about, does this feel supportive and nurturing to me? And do I feel, safe and secure? And does my partner feel supported and nurtured and safe and secure?
That's beautiful.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
I love it.
I kind of wanted that last little bit to come through, like, you're always right.
You're always right. You're always right. Can we just put that on repeat, right? You're always right. You're always right.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
Great job, producer. Great job. All right. We are going to have a little bit of fun. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, this is our lightning round. As soon as I can find it, here we go. All right, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and you are just going to answer as quickly as you can the first thing that comes to mind. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. First of all, oh, wait, I got to get my timer going. All right, so you're going to see that
the
timer up
pressure on.
above your head. Okay, so we're going to basically do 30 seconds of let's find out a little bit about Tiffany. You ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. All right, Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Yoda or Grogu?
Yoda.
Best carnival or fair food?
Oh my gosh. Elephant ears.
Nice. Does pineapple belong on pizza?
I mean, half and half. People need choices.
Coke or Pepsi?
Oh, Coke.
Cabin by the lake or beach house in the city?
Yes, please.
Windows or Mac?
Oh, wait.
A little get to know you, a little fun thing here. So which one was it, Windows or Mac?
I have a Windows, but I do appreciate a Mac because, you can get like your text on them and all of that. It's a little beyond my tech savvy though. I'm kind of
That's good. One less thing.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I am a full-blown Mac guy, so it's everything for me. I want to give you a minute here to talk a little bit more about your business, about your intuitive eating services. Can you tell people, especially our listening audience? So I know we have stuff on the screen, but for our listening audience, make sure that people can hear. How can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you for intuitive eating and get some help with that?
Yeah, so it's CoachTiffanyRN.com. And actually, I have a new quiz if you want to know your food attachment style. So it's CoachTiffanyRN.com/quiz. And then if you go through the quiz and you're interested in learning more, there's a way to schedule and have a consultation with me. I call it the Find Peace with Food session. So it's my business is really my passion, and I love that polyamory has helped me grow in that work. And I feel like there's actually somebody doing a research study about intuitive eating and embracing your sexuality and coming more into owning your pleasure. And so it's this beautiful intersection for me of all of these worlds that I feel really passionate about colliding.
I love that. And is there any limitation to where people are? Does it matter where they are in the world, in the country? Can they get in touch with you regardless?
They can get in touch with me. I work online and see people via Zoom. And I am an RN, and so I practice more nursey stuff in the state of Oregon, but outside of the state, I can still do consulting and coaching. So.
Very, very cool. All right. Any last minute advice that you would give to someone who, like you, is new into polyamory and, maybe some books that you've been reading? Of course, we've been talking a lot about Polysecure. Anything else that you might want to leave as words of wisdom for somebody new in the community?
Yeah, I would say absolutely find out some, who in your life is polyamorous, or join polyamorous discussion groups online and social media world. I love Polysecure. I'd say, if you're new to it, if you're feeling insecurity, jealousy, if it feels hard or scary, I would say that doesn't mean that you're not polyamorous or that you can't be. But, it just means that there's some work to be done, right? And there's a lot of growth opportunity. And so I think we tend to, if people really struggle with it, say well, maybe you're just not polyamorous. And I think that messaging is kind of hurtful. It
For sure
implies that you should just be automatically great at doing this thing that we're never told about or taught to do. And
oh, I'm sorry. You mean you want me to unlearn generations of monogamy and everything that I've grown up learning and seeing and just be good at this as soon as I wake up the next day? Yeah, I get it.
Totally. Hang in there, I guess is my advice.
Hang in there. I love it. I love it. And yes, absolutely. I am part of a lot of polyamorous communities on Facebook. I don't know if I'm allowed to drop them by name, so I'm not going to. But if you get into a lot of those groups, you'll probably see me there commenting. I like to welcome people as often as I can. So drop a line, and these communities, we're all here to support each other and help each other out.
Yeah. Beautiful. I'm so glad. I think that's how I heard about the podcast, actually, is one of the polyamory discussion groups on Facebook.
Perfect. I got to reach out to more people, get more guests. So, Tiffany, thank you so much again for joining us today. Hope you got some value out of it, because I know I did.
I did. Thank you. This was so fun.
Lots of fun. Thank you again. And thank you to our live audience for tuning in today. As a reminder, when you're live, you get no commercial interruptions, but the same cannot be said for those podcast downloads. Not, telling you don't download, because please download. But if you want to avoid the commercial interruptions, be sure to catch us live Monday through Wednesday, or sign up for our Patreon, where you'll not only get access to our commercial-free RSS feed, but also Patreon-only content like reaction videos and Q&A with our upcoming professional guest. Well, this one would have been one, but more to come. More to come. But anyway, thanks again for hanging out with us. Really appreciate everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Go over to YouTube, do that quick search for Practicing Polyamory Podcast. Give me that subscribe so I can hit 100 by the end of the month. And if you want to be a guest on the show, go to www.practicingpolyamory.com. That's all we've got, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody else. Thank you all so much, ladies and gentlethems. That's what I'm supposed to say. I gotta get into that habit. I'm working on it. Yeah, that's all we got. So thank you all as always, and don't forget to
Have a nice day!
Thank you for tuning in to the Practicing Polyamory podcast. Would you or someone in your polycule like to be a guest? Sign up at practicingpolyamory.com and join the conversation. Please support us by subscribing, liking, and following us on social media at Practicing Polya by clicking any of the affiliate links on our website, or by subscribing at patreon.com/